Hey everybody, welcome to The Novice Cinephile. I'm joined today by two great friends to talk about the Batman. So, first off, Leo, this is your first time on this channel. We've collabed so many times. This is the first time you've actually been on my channel. So, welcome. Thanks for joining me. And how you been, man?
Oh, hey, thanks for having me, man. Yeah, it's good to collab again.
Yep.
We've been doing a lot with the amateur otaku, a little bit of otaku verse as well. But it's been good, man. Look, after the Batman, I'll admit, I've barely watched any more content other than a Netflix show I can't talk about yet. But I have just been thinking about the Batman almost nonstop. Look, when did that first trailer come out? Like 2020, late 2020 or something like that. We've been waiting since then, guys, and it feels like sitting down to see the Batman almost felt like a fever dream a bit. It felt like I wasn't actually there. But wow, I'm ready to talk about it. And thanks for having me on the channel, because let's talk some Batman.
Oh, yeah, we're getting into it. Also joining us, Nate. Welcome. Again, your first time here.
Yes, I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on. This is the first time you've been on this channel. You've been on the podcast a few times. So, ironically, most of the time I wasn't there. It was mainly you and John, which is a running joke at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what are your thoughts on the Batman?
So I wasn't even expecting to get a studio invite to this movie. I've been dying of anticipation for this. Like you said, I remember when that trailer came out, because it was like the day I was moving into my apartment for my senior year of my final semester at college. And so my roommate and I were just finishing setting everything up, and then the trailer came on, and he's not even a DC guy, and he's like, that looks amazing. And I've just been so excited. And then 2 weeks ago now, I got a studio invite, and I always have to ask, or my boss has to ask for invites. So it was all so surreal. And then
that's epic.
The movie itself. Can I already say what I thought?
Yeah, go for it. Again, this is the spoiler-free section, so keep that in mind. But yeah, give us everything. What were your thoughts on it?
I absolutely loved it. I am a diehard Batman fan. Maybe not as much as, I don't know as much as you guys do about the character, but I mean, growing up, him and the Flash were always my two favorite superheroes. And I just felt I remember when Batman v Superman came out, I was so excited for that. This was even before I was on Twitter, I was just starting out on Letterboxd. I remember I was defending Ben Affleck's casting and everything. And then I remember walking out of that movie feeling kind of deflated. I gave it another chance actually last year with the Ultimate Edition, which I mean, my thoughts have changed now. But I was just so excited to see how this movie would be. I love Matt Reeves. I thought his Planet of the Apes films were fantastic, especially Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Oh, yeah.
But also, I thought War was also very bleak and so unconventional for a blockbuster. Just how, it's a very draining movie that you usually get out of an Oscar bait kind of film. And I was just so curious, in Cloverfield as well. And so I thought he brought such a fresh energy to the Batman. This wasn't action heavy, boom, boom, fist fight every 10 minutes. It really feels like it's inspired by David Fincher's films, Seven and whatever.
Zodiac.
Zodiac was the other one I was really thinking of. I thought I loved Robert Pattinson too. I thought he was fantastic. He really made the character his own. It really stood out from different actors' interpretations of the character. I thought he almost felt, I wrote in my review, I said because I heard my boss was saying this, he's more Kurt Cobain than Tony Stark, is how he kind of put it.
Okay.
You could tell there's something not quite right going on in his head. He's drowned by the grief. It still haunts him. The whole movie, it's 3 hours. He's mainly in that bat suit, and I found that so fascinating.
Yeah, it's such a great choice because it reminds me of Batman comics, right? Or Batman the Animated Series, where it's he's he's solving or trying to solve these riddles, and he's at the back computer, and he's still got the costume on because he's not getting any sleep or anything. And it's just like they nailed the tone for me perfectly for that very reason. So good.
Yeah, it's kind of, there's this battle of identity going on, right? He wants to stay the Batman. He wants to be vengeance. And I love how that's played out here by, like you guys were saying, just having the suit on for most of the freaking movie. I mean, it's really cool. I think probably my favorite scene in this movie, I'm sorry to just totally detour here, but I think in this movie that just the pinnacle scene for me was that car chase that, we see in trailers and stuff. Just getting to see that on the big screen and seeing the Batman approach Penguin in like this slasher movie style way. It's like, look, Michael, Ghostface, get out of the way because the Batman is putting the fear in the people out here.
Yeah.
It was shot so beautifully. And that was practical effects, like the explosion was controlled. I love that Matt Reeves brings all these great techniques into the movie. I mean, the cinematography in and of itself makes Gotham feel like it's its own character. I mean, that's probably the biggest thing when it comes to Gotham with any property for me that's Batman besides the Gotham TV show. Won't get into all that. I really assess Gotham and I want to see it be grimy and mucky and like I want that comic book Gotham. And this gave it all to us, man. Like it gave us that setting, that just oozing darkness and grit and grime. Like that's what Gotham's supposed to be. Yes. So I loved that we just got to go through so many settings and really establish it almost like an extension of Bruce Wayne, just like the car is. I mean, it's fantastic, man. Like Matt Reeves really did some work on this.
Yeah, and you mentioned it being kind of like a slasher film, essentially, right? Like that's what I really loved about how they framed the character Batman, in the sense that like when he's on the streets dealing with crime, it's kind of we shift perspective to the criminals half of the time, and it's like he's just this unstoppable force that just keeps coming at you, and it's horrifying. But then we pull back, and then we understand Bruce, and so it's like we know Bruce isn't a scary guy, but from the perspective of everybody else, he is, for lack of a better term, a bat out of hell, right? Like the Penguin thinks he gets away, and like this is in the trailer. The Penguin thinks he gets away, and then Batman just emerges from the flames like a demon, and it's just wild.
Yeah, he's just like, I got you, psych.
Yeah, and it's like there's no quip there. He's not being all Tony Stark, like, oh, you thought you had me, blah blah blah. He just shows up, gets the job done. That's Batman.
Those heavy boots just hitting the ground, approaching. The sound mixing too is incredible.
Oh my god, yeah.
No, go ahead, Mike. My bad.
No, I was just saying like the sound mixing, the score. That might be one of my favorite scores of like the last 5 years.
Yeah. I said in my review, I was like easily my favorite score of the year. I'm not even gonna give anybody else a chance to get number one.
I think that is easily Giacchino is probably like my favorite composer that's not John Williams or Hans Zimmer. Yeah. And I honestly think his score here might be his best work.
Yeah, I feel like with this, and it's like the Spider-Man one was great. I feel like the resume he's building, he's gonna start to rival Zimmer. In like maybe 2 years' time.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, after this, and speaking of just like technicals, like Greek Fraser, like, oh my gosh, after Dune coming and doing this, like, I mean, what a resume he's stacking up. And I just wanted to talk a little bit. No spoils, but the beginning, and speaking of just Batman being this kind of dark character, he's putting the fear in thugs, like toward the beginning of the movie. And so it just sets this tone for the rest of the film, for the Batman to be this vengeful, horrifying, scary-looking figure that just prays over those enemies, and it really works, man. Really works.
Yeah, to me, it's a little similar. I don't know if you guys got the same vibe, but Batman 89, right, where we open up and Michael Keaton's doing the same thing, going after thugs, and he's all like, I want you to tell your friends about me. Difference is, Pattinson doesn't have to say that. When that light goes up in the sky, they scatter like roaches.
They're like,
It's like, we got to get out of here. We know he's around here somewhere. And yeah, like not spoiling that moment, but like the way that's shot, and like we're going from different characters, seeing how they respond to the Batman. It's just like, oh, that's what I wanted to see. It won me over in like the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, amen. I think the first 5 minutes are brilliant.
Yes. That movie opened and there was like no music. Like it was just like the studio logo, big letters, the Batman. And I turned to my friend who last minute he was able to get in, DC Boylan. I just whispered to him like, is this the movie? Like, but just within seconds, I was just immersed. I was like losing my mind. I'm like, I am seeing the Batman. I was just, that movie was 3 hours. I never felt that length.
Well, I gotta say, a couple times I did kind of gaze at the watch a bit, but it did get me back in. It wasn't like a big long lull. It was just a few times during the movie I was like, oh man, I thought this ended, y'all. Like I was about to kind of start, grabbing my phone and writing my immediate thoughts down. I'm like, wait, hold on. But
I checked my watch 3 times.
See, the last 30 minutes though is like so damn good.
Yes.
Probably before that last 30, I was kind of like, okay, are we wrapping it up? And then they just ramped back up.
Yeah, it's not that it didn't like hold my attention. It's just like, it's not a major spoiler, but the Riddler's the villain of this movie. And it's like, I feel like we could have cut a couple riddles out to get this under 2 hours. But that being said, Riddler's like top 2 Batman villains for me. Yes. I was eating it up. He's not Jim Carrey. I was happy.
Yes.
So yeah, and that was the thing too. I remember when they had announced that the Riddler was going to be like the villain. I was like, really? Like, you bring in this campy, goofy, enigma type figure? But wow, they really made their own. Matt Reeves and Paul Dano, who did an incredible job as Riddler. They really made it their own, and I love when directors take a Batman villain and really just allow a new, fresh feel for that villain. Of course, Joker, Heath Ledger's Joker, kind of has his own mix in it as well. I like when these villains are different than what we're used to in the comic books. Because let's be real, if y'all would have watched Spider-Man Homecoming and Michael Keaton came out looking like the Vulture from the comics, I think we all would have not taken the movie seriously. Yeah. So it's nice to get these modern updates. But what did you guys think about just like, I guess I can't dive too deep, but what did you guys think about the Riddler? What did you think about him and some of his lackeys, for a better term?
I thought he was terrifying. I kind of remind Dano's performance, because this isn't really a spoiler, but most of the movie he's in that mask.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which I think plays to its advantage, because people who don't know who Dano is, they don't know who the Riddler is.
But it reminded me kind of his performance in Prisoners, the Denis Villeneuve movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been a fan of Dano. I remember it wasn't Jonah Hill the first one cast in the role, or was he cast as Penguin?
I think
he was Penguin. I think.
Okay.
I think he was. I think the rumor was he was up for both, but they kind of clarified it was for Penguin.
Because I thought Dano was the perfect fit for this character. I thought when you just see him regular, he's not like an intimidating dude, but it's all in his mannerisms and how he talks and just how he poses himself. He's probably one of the scariest Batman villains I've seen in a movie since Heath Ledger as the Joker.
Yeah. And that's something like, if we're ignoring the Snyderverse, no offense, this is the first Batman movie in like a decade.
Yeah.
And following up The Dark Knight Rises is a tall order, just following up the Nolan trilogy in general.
Yeah.
And I think they did a fantastic job. It's different enough to where it can stand on its own. Like, I feel like the Riddler might still draw a couple comparisons to the Joker. That's just what's going to happen from now on with Batman movies.
Yeah.
But I feel like you were talking about earlier, Leo, like Gotham being Gotham City and not just a Chicago variant like we see in some of the Nolan films. It's like we took the elements of Batman that somehow haven't been used yet, right? Like, out of the 8 other Batman movies, he's not the world's greatest detective. I think you could barely qualify him as a detective, period, in those films.
I mean, in the Dark Knight, it's pretty much Lucius Fox that's behind the computer. So it's like, all right.
Yeah, it's Lucius and like some AI program Lucius made. It's not Bruce doing anything really.
Yeah.
But it's like again, like starting this movie very early on. You see it in the first trailer. Gordon brings him in, and he's like schooling all of the detectives that are already on the scene. And it's like, okay, this guy's different. He's just wired differently than any other Bruce Wayne. And I said in my review that's going to be up on my website and the channel here that he's billionaire Bruce Wayne, not billionaire playboy Bruce Wayne, which is different from the other interpretations. And it's like, there's a story reason for that, but that just automatically makes him feel completely different. He's not putting on that, I'm going to pretend I'm drunk at this party type of deal that we see in like Batman Begins.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like, in like a stroke of genius, a character that's been around for 80 years, they found something new to tackle, but also something that's still in line with what we expect from the character of Batman, which is a really tall order to do. They tried it with Superman. It was hit and miss for some people, but I feel like they just nailed it perfectly with this movie. But what were you guys' thoughts on like the supporting cast? We talked a little bit about the Riddler, but like Catwoman, Penguin, Alfred, Gordon. There's a lot of people in this movie.
Oh man, well, I honestly think everybody is perfectly casted. Like honestly, this is such a heavy cast. Even though Andy Serkis doesn't get that much screen time, still his Alfred is great. I wish that he had more time with Bruce in the movie because I would have liked to see that dynamic and relationship a little bit more. But I pretty much love everyone. Like, there's no complaints about anybody. Man, Zoe Kravitz. Yes. I'm just gonna say this. There were a couple scenes where I was like, "Oh, you kind of outshining Pattinson right now a little bit, just a little." I mean, she was excellent. She had swagger. She had pizzazz. She was great, man. She just emitted the perfect energy for this character. Yeah. Gave you a little bit of twists and turns and some things you didn't see coming. She's just really freaking good. And her dynamic with Pattinson on screen, I think that's the Batman Catwoman dynamic we've really been searching for the whole time. Hey, no offense to Returns, but I'm just saying this is such a different and amazing dynamic. I love what Zoe Kravitz brought to this role, and she definitely has the look of the year one Catwoman. So I was like, awesome. You pretty much slap her right on screen. She looks great. And I want more. I want so much more. And no spoils. But we're
going to get to that in like maybe 5 minutes so we can just stop putting the lid on everything. So what about you,
Colin Farrell, man. Colin Farrell.
Back to Zoe Kravitz, though, before I jump into the Colin Farrell of it all. I thought Zoe Kravitz, she's been an actress who's like started out, she wasn't getting the right kinds of roles. Like she just had like a supporting roles and like Divergent. And even though this is one of like my favorite movies of all time, she didn't have that much to do in like Mad Max Fury Road. And then
I forgot she was in them.
Yeah. See? But over the years, she's been getting like better and better roles. I don't know if you guys saw this, but it was the Hulu series, The High Fidelity.
Yeah, I saw a couple episodes. She's good.
Yeah, and I mean, it was canceled after one season, which is a shame because she was phenomenal in that. And then just a couple weeks ago, she was great in Kimmy. And then here she's Catwoman. This is the biggest role of her career, and she just, I don't know if I would say she steals the whole film, but she almost does. I thought she showed that she was born for this role. And I don't think they could have cast her any better. And then to Colin Farrell, I remember when that first teaser dropped and everyone's like, is that Colin Farrell? Even during the movie, I was like, is that Colin Farrell? Like that makeup on him. And then he just completely went away with like his like mannerisms he's brought to all his other roles. And he really transformed into that character beyond just the prosthetics. Like I thought he was like the perfect choice. And I know they're doing that spin-off series with him. And before I saw this movie, I'm like, you know what? I'll see it. I'm all on board the Colin Farrell train.
Hear me out. Catwoman versus Penguin.
Yes.
Yes. 100%.
I'd take it. Like I left this movie. My feelings with this movie, it took me like a good day to try and settle my opinion on it. Like I was like I took a train to Chicago from Milwaukee to go see this movie. So like I'm texting you guys on the train, leaving the train station. That's why I was so sporadic. And I'm just like, I think I like Catwoman more than Batman in this movie.
I'm telling you, there were some pivotal moments where I was like, dude, I'm loving Robert Pattinson as Batman, but right now, loving Zoe is Kravitz. Wow.
Yes.
Zoe is Catwoman even a little bit more. And you were talking about her roles, and I was like, yeah, she had like X-Men First Class too.
Yeah.
Like she's just been shoved to the background. But this, I'm hoping she gets way more roles too. Like with this one, we need to see her like become a rising star after this.
Yeah,
this was great.
Give Selena the Peacemaker treatment and get her on HBO Max. That's
Period. Period.
Yes.
Period. You're speaking to the choir right now.
Yeah.
Look, Gotham PD, get rid of that. I don't even need the Gotham PD, all that. We had Gotham anyway. We don't need all that back.
But this will be good this time.
Yeah, amen.
Okay.
Gotham was rough.
Gotham's best attribute was the Riddler, and Penguin, which is ironic.
Yeah, funny enough.
Yeah.
And they had no idea what they wanted to do with Joker. That's a whole other rabbit hole.
Guys, I want to end this so we can just go straight into spoilers. So I'm gonna start with you, Nate. What would you give this movie like rating wise on a scale of like 1 to 10 or whatever?
I have been debating ever since I saw it on Thursday, and I feel comfortable now giving it like a 4.5 out of 5, like a very, very strong one. Like I feel I'm seeing it again on Saturday, and I feel like even on a rewatch, I feel like that could even move up to a 5 if I can. You know, I still have like a couple of tiny nitpicks with it, but yeah, I had a blast. I got every single thing I wanted from this movie. So
nice. Leo.
Out of 10?
10, 5, whatever your rating scale is.
Hard 9 out of 10, man. I loved it. Look, I was sitting between 9 and 9.5. There's a couple things that maybe bumped it down to a 9 for me, but a 9 is great. So look,
oh yeah, I
loved it. I have very little complaints about the movie, but really, really enjoyed it.
I'd have to be right there with you guys in that like 9-4 range, depending on what scale you're going on. Because the only gripe I had was you could have cut maybe 15 minutes off the runtime. It's not a big deal.
I agree, man. You could have cut 15, 20 minutes out of that, and it would have just ended a little smoother, I think.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't have too many other criticisms. What I do see, though, and I think it's something that kind of does need to be said, this is a thriller, mystery, crime. This isn't really like your superhero action-packed, like fist to fist. Of course, there's those scenes in the movie, but it's not necessarily like even as much as The Dark Knight. This is very much like Seven meets Batman, and it's great. I mean, look, they got the Mills-Somerset dynamic, which neither of them are really Mills, but they've got the two detective dynamic figuring this out, going through and figuring out clues. It's so much fun, but if you're going in wanting action, boom, boom, pow, not quite it here.
Yeah, it's definitely much more The Long Halloween, right? As opposed to something like The Court of Owls, which he's doing detective work in that, but he's really fighting the Talon 90% of that comic book run. So it depends what type of Batman story you're into. That's the version of Batman I love, is the detective side. So I ate this movie up. I can't wait to watch it again. This has been really fun having this conversation because, again, I haven't really talked to anybody about this. I couldn't talk to anybody about this. I've just been sitting here like, I just saw the best movie of the year and I have nobody to talk to. This is awful. But it's been fun having you guys on. For the YouTube audience, we're going to have a spoiler cast. It's going to come up on Friday. So come back for that. Special thanks to Leo and Nate for joining me on this video. If you guys want to hear part 2 of this conversation, the spoiler cast, that's coming out on Friday morning, right when the Batman comes out. So it's always going to be there. Once you guys see the film, you'll have the spoiler discussion and you can really get into the nitty-gritty of what makes this film great. Also, some things you don't really like about that movie. No movie's perfect, but again, shout out to Nate and Leo for joining me. Their socials, their channels, everything's in the description down below. And with that, I will see you guys later. Peace.